Welcome, my stars of Orion. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. I'm all about providing validation and support for autistic people and their loved ones. Can I just say, in all seriousness, I'm really enjoying talking to everyday autistic people and hearing their story. Every story blows my mind. It's relatable, or it's shocking, or it's fascinating, and I hope you're enjoying it too, because we have another autistic person here to tell us their story. I just want to get straight to it because seriously, this is an absolutely beautiful and brilliant conversation. She's an AuDHD mum with an autistic son, and her name is Keisa. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Well, I really do appreciate you taking the time to chat. You know, I've had a lot of conversations over the last 6 months or so. Some people who make not a living, but try to, do content creation as their thing, and others who have really never done it before. And I've interviewed people and, this has been their first time talking to the world about their experiences. And I think they've been incredibly valuable conversations. So I can't wait to have a conversation with you about your experiences. But first, for everyone who's watching, tell us a bit about your story.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Keisa. I live in America. I live in Hawaii, and I am a stay-at-home mom. Not really intentionally, but because of kind of like my diagnosis and my son's diagnosis, this is where we're at. So I got diagnosed with ADHD in 2021 after a friend of mine said a joke. And she was like, because that's how we are as ADHD women. And I said, excuse you? And she said, oh, you didn't know? And I said, no. And that was the beginning of my journey. I went through all of this and I learned about ADHD in women. And then I got my diagnosis in 2021. And I got Ritalin for the first time. And that was interesting. And I was going through all this stuff and there was something that wasn't quite fitting. Something that wasn't being explained. So then another friend of mine said, well, that's because you might be autistic. And I was like, again, shocked. And she was like, I think you're like me. Here's some stuff. Do you want to look at it? And I said, of course I do. And that's when I wrote a very long paper with lots of test results in it and said, hey, doctors, can someone look at me? And I got a doctor to look at me, and they were like, honestly, your paper was enough, but we'll do some more tests. And that's how I found out. And so that all happened. And then I turned around and I looked at my child and I said, oh no, he's just like me. And so he got diagnosed in 2024. And so now I'm in the process of learning how to be neurodivergent for the very first time and giving myself kind of all the tools to kind of make it through this space, and then also learning how to parent my child. And it's been quite a journey trying to figure out these things and trying to advocate for him, trying to understand the school systems and how they can be supportive, how to support him when we do things that seem like normal family things to do, like go on trips or be in public spaces and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm still kind of in the beginning stage of this journey, I would say.
It's fascinating, though, because every time I talk to someone, their story is the same but different. Like, for example, I talk to so many late diagnosed autistic adults who got the diagnosis because of their child. But your experience is the reverse. It's actually, your experience helped unlock your child's diagnosis. It's fascinating how we are all so similar yet so different. I can't even imagine the reverse. So it was really going through the assessment experience with my son that rang alarm bells. But for you, it was the reverse. And how did you grapple with that? Because obviously, but for you, you wouldn't have been able to help your child. But still, how did you grapple with the idea that this might be my child as well? Because as a parent, you can be a little bit protective and defensive and these kind of things, So how did you feel about that?
Yeah, it's not something that's necessarily important to me to feel like I fit in at all. So that made a big difference for myself first, because I was like, yeah, this is me. This makes sense. Now I can figure out practical ways to be in the world. And that's so helpful to me. I love information. I crave it. So that was so exciting. Honestly, the other big thing was that because I'm really high masking and it's those kind of subtle things that I didn't really notice with my son in the beginning. When I turned around and I was able to look at those little things that, we talk about that are much more subtle. It was so easy to see. And I was like, he's literally living my life as a child. And there were so many things that could have been done better. And the motivation from that was like done. Like, I was like, I need to know more, but how can I do more? Because I did not want him to go through school the way that I did. And so it was those were kind of the things that really kind of made it easy, I think. You
can relate to me and other people's experiences, and we can relate to you in the respect that we were grateful we could give our child an experience growing up that we weren't given, right? And this isn't not a blame thing. We came from a different generation, and it's hard, but it doesn't make it any easier, right? So clearly, we're very protective of our kids. So from your point of view, growing up, and even growing up as as a woman, which from an autistic diagnosis, back in our day was even harder. How high masking is going to protect you to a certain degree, but it's also going to create a lot of issues because masking is hard. What are your memories of growing up undiagnosed?
As a kid, I literally thought I was bad at humaning. That's like the best way I could describe it. Like, I had no idea how people were just being a human and all this noise and just not being able to understand anything. I thought what I would say to myself often was, look at all these people around you who aren't getting upset by that sound or that are totally understanding what's going on in these social situations. Look at all of them. They're not freaking out, so you need to keep it together. You need to look like them, okay? Because you're doing a really bad job having feelings about this right now. And those kinds of self-talk, that type of self-talk, that negative self-talk was the thing I remember the most about being a kid. I hear it in my child because my child is highly communicative. He would say things like that. And it don't necessarily break my heart. I don't have I'm not very good at associating with my feelings well, but I guess it would make me really sad.
That's a great way of putting it, though. Well, this is what it did. It actually connected with you, resonated with you, reached you. It made you feel something, right? That's the thing, right? And that's how a lot of autistic people, if something just makes us feel, it doesn't matter if we can't identify the feeling. The fact that it's made us feel gives us some sort of signal, which is like super important. Everything you said is so super powerful because you talked about something that I always hear people talk about, and I talk about too, which is just feeling like, we're bad, not meant to be here, failures, useless. What's the point? These are experiences that are so relatable to people growing up undiagnosed, and to hear it from our kids in this generation, I can't tell you, for you sharing that, it's so relatable. I experienced that too. And it just shows how hard even now life must be growing up, with the diagnosis, because you hear that from your kids and you think, well, hang on a second, isn't it supposed to be better for them now? Right? And it's still hard, right?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you were kind of touching on, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting as I get distracted. I've never felt more autistic right now or more neurodivergent right now than right now, because it's I'm so excited to talk to you. That's one of the things I forgot to mention is that when I started looking at neurodivergence and ADHD and autism and all that stuff, I was watching you. And it was so exciting. And I have to tell you, because I know this isn't part of it, but then we're going off topic a little bit, but I need to tell you, when I was looking up stuff about what that experience is like and seeing if it was relatable, I was watching your stuff. And so I'm still a little bit awestruck that we're having this conversation, because you played a huge role in me getting my diagnosis and feeling safe. And then when you were talking about your child as well and being a parent, I needed that, right? So there's a value in a lot of the stuff that you do. I don't know if people tell you that enough, but there's a huge value, because I would not be here without the work that you're doing. So I wanted to tell you that.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, so I'm autistic as well, and you understand I'm not going to do very well at taking those words. So I'm doing my best here. I've been told I should say I'm very grateful for you saying that. Yes. Someone's telling me behind the curtain. I'm very happy. I'm very happy and grateful for you saying that. But can I, in all seriousness, though, like I'm actually feeling the same about you because, you know, I've gone through life not being able to talk to people and connect with people, right? And to be able to have an opportunity to talk and to connect with someone on, 9-hour flight from here, I know because it's like the place I want to go the most every day, Hawaii. But yeah, like to talk to someone, another part of the world, just shows the value of being able to connect with your tribe, with people that you get. So, I mean, even though I'm really grateful for you saying those things, that I refuse to accept them. But I'm as grateful talking to you. And, yeah, honestly, I have no feelings for you. I'm sorry. I can't help you. But I want you to be autistic in yourself. Yeah. I'm devastated to hear you watch more of my shorts than my long forms because I'm so much better in my long forms. But if you have seen any of my long forms, you know I do lots of rants and go off on tangents, so it doesn't matter.
Don't worry, I watched it.
Do whatever you. Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I'm just grateful that you would share your story and talk to me, and also just grateful to connect with another person that makes me feel like I'm not a bad human being. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for allowing me to talk to someone in Hawaii, which is my happy place. I absolutely love and you know what? It's okay for autistic people to have happy places, and other people might go, it's so cliche. I don't care. I just love the place, the vibe and the place. I just love the place. I don't care what other people think. But anyway, it's been a while. It's been pre-COVID since I've been there, and I'm devastated. But can you imagine putting a 10-year-old autistic boy on a 9-hour flight? I mean, please. So I'm kind of stuck because I have 2 kids. The universe has said I must suffer. So that's what's happening. But I'm not going to put my kid through something just to make me happy. So there you go. It is what it is. Yeah.
I will just say that we do break up our longer flights always, and we always do like layover, and then we go. I don't know what your child needs, but mine needs like a bath, and then like to be left alone. Because like I look at your Australia flight, I seen it. I was like, I don't know.
Well, yeah. Conan, our 10-year-old autistic son, he doesn't need a bath because he hasn't had one in 7 years probably. But seriously, getting him in the shower is hard. But he definitely needs, after traveling and after commuting. Actually, I'm the same. After going through the airport and getting on the plane and getting off the plane and going in, blah, 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 blah. He needs his iPad. I need some, alone time, TV time, listening time. I just want everyone to go away from me. Basically want to tell my family, get away from me. The issue for us is, as you well know, we're an island. There ain't many places to hop on the way to Hawaii. You could do New Zealand, but that's only about 3 hours from Australia. So basically it's 3 hours to New Zealand and maybe 6 hours to Hawaii. I'm not sure where else we'd go between New Zealand and Hawaii. There's really not any places. So yeah, that's the bummer. But keep in mind, when I went to Chicago last year for that book thing on the PBS show, that was like over 20 hours flying. So that was nuts, man. That was crazy.
We've had to go to China. So my husband is Chinese. That's why my last name is Chinese. And so we had to go to China. And to get all the way over there was like 21 hours. And my son at the time was like 15 months. And so but I couldn't, I hated it. One of the things about traveling and being autistic, especially late diagnosis, because I had to travel a lot, we're on an island. You had there is no choice. I have to fly. And my family's always asking, when are you going to come and see us? And I mean, I'm never going because I can't, because it's not just the flight, which by the way, the airplanes are so loud. It's 6 hours. I can't. And then all of a sudden, we get there and I'm stay with us. I'm I cannot be around you. Get away. I need at least a day to be away from every noise possible. Traveling and, now I plan. My husband's why are we doing it? Shut up. Because my husband is neurotypical. So I'm get out of here. we're doing it this way, we're not doing it at all. Like, I'm very particular about where we stay, how we stay, where is our food. You know, like, I'm getting, you know, groceries. Like, I'm doing all the things because travel for me is, I love it. I love to see new places, but leaving my house is like a no.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, and these are great relatable experiences for, you know, for people listening. I mean, I'm the same. Obviously, we only travel domestically. We're on an island like you. We only travel domestically, right? But even when we get there, you know, the first thing we do is get groceries. We're like, so pretty much we're basically relocating our house to our hotel our holiday accommodation. It's basically you relocate your life and you just have it in a different place. But you know, it works. But again, even then, it's very mundane, and it's, you know, the same thing. The boys will always like, okay, so we have breakfast, then we get to, you know, go and play at the park, or then we have lunch, then we get to go and swim in the pool, and then we swim in the pool until dinner or something, and then it's like everything has to be the same. Every day is Groundhog Day. But, you know, that's the best way of going about it. But I've got a theory, though. It's a new thing I'm working on in my head. I come up with these bizarre theories. The first thing is, I really enjoyed traveling alone. Now, most people would go, hang on, what, that makes no sense. Like, don't you need, you know, all these kind of issues? But there's something about, like, when I went to Chicago, sure, it killed me when I got home, but I enjoyed the experience of being able to just travel alone and get around the city alone. And I think when I think about it now, it's because I could put my needs, my supports first, where a lot of times I'm putting them past my kids because that's more important to me. And then I thought, this is a fascinating idea of, you know, autistic traveling alone kind of, you know, holidays. Then I started, this is going to be way out there for you. But then I thought, wouldn't it be interesting, the idea of, and this is going to sound horrible to neurotypical partners like my wife and your husband, but sabbaticals. So parenting sabbaticals, where an autistic parent would take, I don't know, let's say a month to 3 months. So let's say a month then, if that might sound more reasonable. A month a year sabbatical, I think 3 months, but a month a year sabbatical. So this is where I think people think I'm a horrible person, but where you're not with your family. And what's the cause there? The cause is, if I don't do that, I'm here with you, but I'm not here with you because I'm so dysregulated or burnt out. So you don't get me, but you get me. Or you don't get me when you wouldn't have me anyway, but then when I'm back, you actually have me present and functional and a good parent and a good partner. So sabbaticals for autistic partners and parents, that's my working theory at the moment. But you know, your partners will always go, you're not here, or you're not present, or, you know, you're struggling, or you just really can't really can't get much done at the moment, can you? And it's like, yeah, well, but that's worse than me being gone for a month and being good when I get back, right? So that's my...
On that note, like on that thread, there was a point where I was like, I wanted to go into the Army because there was a boot camp. And it would be 12-week boot camp, and like a very large portion of it, your family can't talk to you, and like no one's really gonna wake you up more than a couple of times a night. Like, your food is gonna be handled. You don't have to cook. Like, you have like a very strict schedule of when you're gonna do certain things, and someone's planning that all out for you, so you don't have to do it. Like, I fantasized about going to boot camp. Military boot camp, because I was like, at the very least, like, most of the stuff that bothers me can get out of the way, and I'll do some physical stuff because I need the physicality. Like, I need to be moving all the time. Like, that's, you know, part of this fun thing that I am. And I was like, that's great, I could go. And I was like talking to people, I was like, this sounds amazing. As a mother, like, so many of my mom friends, like, you know, a lot of my friends, I'm realizing, this is the other thing that, you know, happens, right, is that when you find out you're neurotypical or you're neurodivergent, you look around at your tribe that you've kind of created, just, you know, because you like them, you like to be around them, and you start looking at them like, oh my God, we're all neurodivergent, like all of us are, you know. And so I'm sitting there talking to my friends who are also mothers who are clearly neurodivergent, sitting there being like, you know, having this conversation, like, yeah, I need a break, because being a mother is really hard. Being a mother of a neurodivergent child, that's putting on some extra work. And then being a neurodivergent mother, especially late diagnosed and having neurodivergent children, is like, I wasn't ready, you know? I was not ready for this. And you know, it starts at kind of conception, at least it did for me. Like, as soon as I was pregnant, being pregnant was such a sensory overload situation. Like, I did not enjoy it at all. I hated pregnancy. It does so many things. Like, one, your body changes so much. And I live in a tropical place, and I don't like to be wet. So when you're pregnant, it's a very swampy experience, okay? It's a sensory there. Like, people are always trying to touch you. I don't like to be touched. Like, all of these things in my body I could not control, and I also couldn't use a lot of like coping mechanisms that might have worked in the past because I'm pregnant. Like, I can't eat the things that would make me feel safe or calm because I can't eat certain things anymore. You know, like, everything just sucked. Is really the best way to say it. And that was before I even knew I was neurodivergent. And I did all these weird things. Like, I said no one could throw me a baby shower. No gifts. I don't know how you are about getting gifts, but I hate getting gifts because I'm always like, what am I supposed to do with this if I didn't specifically ask for it? No clutter, like no extra things. Like, no one could take pictures of me. My husband had to, we have mirrored closet doors. He had to turn them around because I couldn't do it. Like, so much change so quickly was a nightmare, and that was one of the things. If I was to get pregnant, like, I'm never going to do that again, but if I was to, get pregnant again, I'd be doing, and I did all these things. I said, nobody could see me after the baby was born. I was like, nobody can come in here for like 6 months. Like, I need to regulate after all this. And again, this is before I knew. I was just like, this needs to happen. I got to make it through this. And like, it's one of those things where, again, it's like, as a mom, and trying to be present and trying to be like there for all their things, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, but I can't even imagine, though, like, how it would impact you or how it would make you feel, because you weren't diagnosed, but you were pregnant. And this is when people start to go, like, isn't it the best time of your life? You're glowing. Isn't it such a joy? Look at you. And you were feeling feelings and thinking things. How did that impact you when you were being told by the world you're not experiencing the way it's supposed to be experienced, and I think you're a bit ungrateful almost? Like, how did that impact you?
It felt like being a kid all over again. Like, I'm not humaning properly again. People are like, you're glowing. I'm like, I gained 50 pounds. Like, this nose isn't that big usually. This is a big change in a short amount of time. Like, why isn't anyone really recognizing this? Like, why isn't anyone talking about how hard it can be? And like, how much pain there is? How am I supposed, like, it didn't connect at all. I hate, like, and I was like, I never wanted to tell anybody, but I hated feeling my son move in my belly. I hated that feeling. That felt so gross. But of course, I'm supposed to be so happy, and I'm supposed to count those kicks every single day. And it was so hard to feel seen at that time.
I can't even imagine. But I mean, I really appreciate you sharing these things because I know how much they resonate. So thank you. I mean, I really do appreciate it. I remember being utterly horrified when it got to the point where you could see the kick come through the chest, like you could see the chest move from a kick or something. Yeah. Like, I'd see that and I'd be like, no, this is not, I'm not connecting. It's alien. I'm not connecting with this kind of stuff. But I think, you are bang on right. Number one, it's a dirty little secret that no one ever talks about with regards to pregnancy and raising a baby. No one ever bloody talks about it, how hard it is. And number two, no one ever talks about the other stuff. No one ever talks about miscarriage. No one ever talks about all the bad things that can happen. Yeah, all the complications. It's like a dirty little secret. Like, oh no, it never happened to me, right? Like, apparently, if you have a miscarriage, you're the first person on the planet that's happened to, right? Because no one talks about any of that kind of stuff. I've actually been in the room where you go when your wife's pregnant and they do the ultrasound. I've actually been in the room with my wife and they're doing it and it goes very quiet. My wife looks at the lady and the lady looks at her and I'm like, what's going on here? It's very quiet. And, basically this is them looking at each other, realizing there's no heartbeat and then saying it out loud to the room. And my wife being upset and me being frozen. I had nothing. I could provide her with nothing. And I didn't know why. This is them saying, oh, you've got a dead baby inside you, mate. We can't find the heartbeat. And everyone but I was frozen. I had no emotions. Now, of course, maybe I think I felt stuff, but we're talking about something inside a belly I've never met before. But still, like these are situations that everyone knows how to deal with these situations, and I just felt like I was just a useless piece of crap after that because I thought I provided her nothing, and I had nothing to give. Or to find, when you go through the experience, like, look at the baby. What baby? Well, what are you showing me? These kind of experiences. I mean, they are, like they're ingrained in my mind, and they're just another, chalk on the board of where I failed in life. I failed as a husband because I didn't know how to support her or feel feelings. Like it just adds up.
Yeah, the feeling thing, like feeling feelings, I think is one of the hardest things, especially as like a parent. Mine was like the opposite, where when I found out I was pregnant, I had to eventually tell people, right? And everyone's like, "Oh, I'm so excited for you," and I'm like, ugh, it's fine, I guess. Like, it's okay. Like, we have everything set up, so it makes logical sense. I guess now's the time. I guess, because I was 30 when I got, we said we're gonna keep this baby. This is gonna be our baby. So I mean, like, but I didn't have the feelings. I did not have the feelings. I did not have the feelings at all during pregnancy. And it took me probably about 4 or 5 months to admit that I loved my baby. And it wasn't because like I was going through some like major depression or anything. It's like, it took so long for me to make that connection. Like just make that like, oh, okay, I like this thing, and it took probably way longer than it should have. But not because of like all the things that they were worried about that I was going to have, like, postpartum depression. I was not depressed. I'd been depressed before. I knew what to look for, and that wasn't it. I was just having that hard time making that connection with like my feelings, and then also with this thing that didn't really move that much, and I always had to take care of it. It's just been like through like basically a car wreck, and then they gave me this thing that I got to feed every 2 hours and like keep clean and not let it die. Like it was just make logical sense to me. Like parenting doesn't make any sense. And like the way that we talk about it and we talk about how great it is all the time, we like really don't talk about how it's just weird and like kind of terrible. Like, and that's kind of like where I feel like I'm always validating my friends, because everyone's always trying to make it be positive or make it seem positive. Like sometimes it's just crappy, and we should just admit that, like, so that we can just move on.
I completely agree. Actually, it's funny, the analogy you got, the first thing I thought was it's like being in a street fight and then having to care for the person who beat the crap out of you for 6 months. But so from my point of view, this is how I see it. I clearly love my boys, but I utterly have nothing nice to say about the idea that we are supposed to give the large chunk of our life away to parent these kids just for what? So they can do what we did? My mind can't get around the idea. Like, I love my boys and I love having a family, but no, it's not easy. And frankly, it's actually not one of the great highlights of your life. Like, what are you talking about? The prime of your life you're giving away to care for these kids, and that's cool. It's your choice, but it's not a given to me that I just go, isn't it such a joy and a gift and the happiest times of your life? I remember telling people, my joke became to, like, the medical people or the family and friends, and like, don't worry, the first 6 weeks are the hardest. Now, my joke became, what are you going to say next? Don't worry, the first 6 months are the hardest. What are you going to say? The first 12 months are the hardest. The first 3 years are the hardest. Shut up. It hasn't got any easier. There is no the hardest. He's 10. What are you going to say now, you douchebag? The first 2 decades are the hardest? Shut up. I can completely relate to this idea that, you love them and it was your choice, but I'm not interested in this kind of narrative that this is just so amazing and great, and it isn't. It's hard. It's eat, sleep, parent. It's like war zone conditions, right? It's like fight, sleep, fight, sleep. That's it. It's literally my experience, but no one wants to say that.
No, it's really hard as someone who, likes honesty and likes decisions made based on the evidence provided and, like maybe some studies or something, someone who needs like extra information. And I love my child. I really do. But I hate parenting. I think that's probably one of the worst things to say, but I really don't like it. But I'm obsessed with my son, and I want to give him all these things. And this is the other thing I hate about parenting, is that I feel like I have no control over how much I want to see this kid succeed. I hate not having control over my emotions that I barely even understand as it is. But I hate the fact that, like, when I really, like, felt deeply about my child, loving him, I hated it. I hated how much I was willing to give and sacrifice. And I think about that all the time because, you know, I'm still in burnout from kind of our last little ordeal of his school stuff. And I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything anymore because all of my energy goes to my son. And I got to be honest, when we talk about that spectrum, my son is on the easiest side of the spectrum in terms of like what I need to do. Because he is, like I said, he's highly verbal and he doesn't necessarily connect with his feelings, but he can connect with like the idea of it and he can explain things really, really well. Right. And part of that might just be because as a parent, I explained everything to him all the time from infancy. So it was modeled behavior, I think, a little bit. But he's so good at it that it makes it really easy to parent him. I can catch his meltdowns before the meltdowns happen because he's willing to, he can say that. And so we can catch little things. Like if we're able to be really observant, we can catch those things. Like we can catch how often he's, you know, chewing his nails or he's chewing on this stuff. If he's doing it more and more and more, okay, now I know something's up and we can talk about it. Like we can do all those kinds of things. So it does make it a lot easier. And I'm grateful that I have, you know, this because I don't know. I almost feel like I don't know if I could handle it. Like I can't handle myself barely. And I think that's also kind of crap for me to say, but
No. It's a relatable thing to say. It's a real thing to say. I mean, you're absolutely right. Factually based, your autistic son is easier to handle than a high support needs autistic kid. There's no question about that. People can say, oh, that's like, you know, that's a bit, ooh, don't say that. But that's factual. It's factual. But in saying that, though, you're not saying it's an easy experience. It's a bloody hard experience. I mean, you know, we're all, as if we don't sometimes say, why can't our kids just be normal? As if we don't sometimes say that. But the fact of the matter is, well, they're not normal because we're bloody not normal and we made them. So, you know, shut up kind of thing. It's like, well, hello, it's your own fault, mate. So it is what it is. Get over it. We didn't start the chain, by the way. It didn't start with us. But anyway, the point is, it is one of the most challenging things you're ever going to do in your life. That's parenting a neurotypical kid. But when you're talking about parenting an autistic kid, you know, neurodivergent kid, it's something that no one is prepared for. But then, like you said, and I can tell you as a fact, being autistic myself, I don't understand how I could ever say I'm doing well because I just feel like I can have meltdowns, I can have shutdowns, I can go and burn out, I can get triggered into like an autistic rage, I can feel dysregulated. I need to do echolalia and I'll start singing weird songs or doing weird voices and it sets my son off and then he'll start doing stimming and I'm like, mate, if you don't stop that stimming, I'm going to lose my crap, right? Like, seriously, dude. And he'll be playing on his iPad and making weird noises and I'm thinking to myself, mate, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I won't tell him no. I'll go, but you got to do that in a different room. Okay, I need you to take your iPad and play that game in a different room because everyone's here and we all, you're allowed to make that noise while you're playing a game, so whatever it is, but we don't all need to hear it. You know, where other parents would just go, stop, you know, but so it doesn't mean that I'm not going to trigger him and he's not going to trigger me. I mean, do you kind of have that similar experience where it's like, this is just not going to work, mate. We are kryptonite to each other. We're magnets repelling each other here.
I cannot relate anymore. My son, when he's dysregulated, he's going to go straight to a safe person, right? And that's me. And that means he wants deep pressure. He wants cuddling. He wants to, you know, like, and the other thing is he's going to keep talking. He usually talks about the thing he really, really, really likes. Because we're ADHD and autistic, like, it's a fun combo that we both have. So he's going to be right here and he's going to be on my body. Guess what I need when I'm dysregulated? literal exact opposite. Like, I need to be in a warm, dark cave by myself, but I've got to do this, right? So, and so I'm always constantly got to watch my, where I'm at. And my husband has gotten really good at like paying attention to both of us. And then when you talk about like the noises they make, I can't do noises. I can't. I am constantly wearing my headphones. And even in my own house, like I can't. And my son has started chewing with his mouth open.
Oh, yeah. That's classic. Yep.
And
same experience, yeah.
I finally got up from the table and was like, listen, I love you so much, but I cannot do this anymore. And I've already said it like for the last 6 months to close your mouth, and I need to leave. And like I took my plate and I left because I can't do this. And a lot of times I'm eating by myself because I can't, and it's so hard because you don't want to hurt their feelings. Like you don't want them to get in a space, because the other thing that, I do a lot and my son does a lot is that self-deprecating thoughts. It comes out like that's where I'm going to see like the biggest concerns. And so he'll do that because the rejection sensitivity to his, from his own brother. No. Right. So it's me having to like, pull in that rage and like, I got to mask really hard in my own house to make sure that I'm not, causing damage to my child who really isn't meaning to do these things and really is doing that to regulate his own nervous system. Like I want him to learn how to regulate his nervous system, especially without having to use, outside influence, right? Be able to understand your body as best you can, because it's really hard for us as it is. So I want to be there and I want to support that. But my God, if you don't stop touching me with your foot, I'm going to burn this whole house to the ground. Like,
Yeah. I mean, you I mean, you're giving me flashbacks here, like I went to war or something. But no, seriously, these are completely relatable. I'm the same. So obviously, if the same way you would notice there's a spider on your arm and be like, oh, get off me, is what I do if someone touches me. Like, if my kid put his foot or his hand on my arm without realizing it, I'd be like disproportionately react. And then I think, oh God, what have I done to my kid? Like I've swatted them away like a spider on my arm. But it's one of those things where, now don't even try to sit next to me if you're going to eat something. Like, I will get up if my wife starts to eat some cereal or something and I just happen to have timed it so I'm eating it at the same time. I try to time it differently, but I'm eating it at the same time. I'm like, I'll just get up and go to the next room. I can't hear slopping around with your cereal and all this, breakfast. And it's like, I want to be clear. The ultimate irony to this is I'm probably louder than she is or most people. Okay, I'm not acknowledging that I don't drink my Slurpee drink or eat my food loudly, but if you do it, get stuffed. So I acknowledge that I probably am the same, but that's the point is I don't hear that. Okay, this is what I hear, and as an autistic parent, you don't grow out of it. So it's one of those things where it's like you can see that your kid is doing things to help them, and that's super important. But then you're being triggered by the same things that are helping them. And then next thing you know, you need help. So you're doing things and that's triggering them. And it's a vicious cycle. And then you think, what am I doing here? What's happening here? And then you can struggle too with neurotypical partners who are parents, that they feel like, well, they're just raising another kid. And then it makes you feel even worse. The whole thing just spirals because it is just one sensory challenge after another. And of course, as you say, with space, the kids start to come into your bed at night time, and next thing you know, you get a sore neck or you're stuck, or the kids need things. And as an autistic person, it's so hard to navigate through the demands of what other people need to make them feel good. And the ultimate irony is all you're really doing is doing things that help other people be regulated and happy, but then at the cost of you not being regulated and happy. Which is
literally like everything pre-diagnosis was that for me, was 100% like, and I was constantly, and like one of the things is like my special interest is humans, like just generally, like I cannot stop learning about humans. Like I find them to be fascinating. I forget I also am considered a human, but I'm always watching them. And because I always am doing that, one of the things, like one of the skill sets I gained was like, yes, when this happens, then they need this thing, and then they will stop being that extra thing that they are, right? So I got really, 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 really good at that. And so I became kind of valuable in a lot of spaces. I did a lot of advocacy work prior to my diagnosis as well. I mean, I was burning out so fast. And especially at that time, I had my son already. So like I would burn out there and then burn out at home, and I was falling apart. And it's been this weird space because all the work still needs to get done. But like, you know, I just can't because, you know, I'm trying to learn how to be a part of those spaces without giving all of myself, which is, you know, not something we're used to being able to do. And there's always this kind of thing about us, you know, autistic people not showing empathy or like not whatever, like we're never enough for some reason, or we're way too much, like we're never the right amount, and not realizing like how much effort we put into making people feel comfortable with us. And then not really realizing, like, as I start to unmask now people are, you know, seeing, because I don't do the things I used to do anymore to make people feel comfortable, because I just can't.
Yeah.
I've been doing it long enough. Like I was doing it for 35 years. I'm all done now. Now I'm going to have to, I did my time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, 35 years, that's a murder sentence. You've done your time.
Yeah.
The point is though, this is an absolute experience, a rite of passage for late diagnosed. And this is a thing. We realized there's two lives. We were able to do something, but, you know, post-diagnosis, we realized not only do we understand now about us, but we really aren't able to continue what we were continuing, because it was like there was something pushing us along, which is we're normal and we're just bad at this, right? So keep going, keep trying. Then you realize, no, you're not. You're different. And then it's like, well, what's the point of keep trying to be normal though? So you actually do stop. And then people are like, well, you weren't autistic yesterday. Why are you so autistic today? Right. And then you have to navigate that kind of mindset and navigate the idea that what I was capable of before, I'm not capable of anymore. But that's because I understand now who I am and, you know, how I work. And that's the trickiest thing to navigate with family and friends. And, you know, some people, you know, they have to change careers, their whole life changes because they realize this is not how to live your life. I feel like an 80-year-old man most days because of, you know, the experience of life, even after diagnosis, really. But yeah, there is two ways of living life.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say like it was something that I was capable of before and now I'm not. I would really rephrase it to say I was never capable of that, but I had space to recover, and now I don't as a parent.
Yes.
I think that's because here's the thing, when you become a parent, and I think this was the other like big realization I had, is when I was working and I didn't have a kid, I could come home and just be. And even though I was married, my husband would not, you know, try and sit in my lap like he was like, you know, a king crab that I needed to hug. Like he didn't do those things, and he was quiet. And I could get up and walk away from him and say, like, I need space, and him not have feelings, right? So I could do that, and I had a safe space. When I had a baby, the baby was in my safe space. And not only was he in my safe space, he was just, like, literally in my body, on my body. Like, you're joking. Like, this is 10 times worse than going to work. Because at least, like, I could tell adults, leave me alone, and they'd be chill with it. I could tell my kid that, tell my baby that. That's not good. That's just not good, you know, parenting work.
Yeah. I can't understand how autistic women would breastfeed, like the idea of that, the feeling and the time frame. And even like it, sometimes I'll be like, all right, I'm done now. Like, you know, you play with your kid or something, you reach a threshold, and I can just imagine, you know, to be like, you know, they're having a drink. All right, I'm done now. I mean, it's like, I can't even imagine navigating that. And I relate to you very, very, very hard, because this is the thing, right? You talked about it. So pre-kids, pre-stresses and demands, we're able to function pretty well. But what people don't talk about is it's part of the diagnostic criteria. It's actually part of the diagnostic criteria. It's capital C. And it's about the stresses and demands exceed your capacity to meet them. Right. Now, that's really a part of the diagnostic criteria for late diagnosed, because, people can say it's hard growing up autistic. It is, but it's much easier growing up autistic than it is being an adult with a partner and kids as an autistic person, because this, you have bills or mortgages or rent and utilities and school and kids and relationship stuff. And then I've realized myself, I've crossed the threshold and I no longer have the capacity to meet the daily stresses and demands of my life. Now, what does that mean? I guess it means I've failed. Like I've bit off more than I can chew. But that is a real experience. This idea that you think, oh wow, I had the sweet spot and I've stuffed it up, and it's a real struggle now to navigate life like this.
It's the main reason why I don't go back to work. I'm constantly, in need of like stimulation. So I need I need information is what I need. I need new information constantly. And I would find that at work, or I would find that in college. I tried to go back to college like 8 times to do a master's, and I still haven't been able to do it because I don't have the bandwidth for it. It's frustrating because, I'm a stay-at-home mom. That's what I am. Because I'm honestly too afraid to go back to work. I don't have to, which is, I'm so privileged in that way where I don't have to. This is, the first time anyone in my family has really had such a privilege, but I can't, I want to do things. I want to do big picture things. I want to, I want to grapple with a large issue and work through all those things and figure out how to get everything done. I love that, but I literally cannot. And it's why I have volunteered quite a bit. And I would do, lots of volunteering, because I knew that if I volunteered, I could stop. I can say no. And then, other than that, I'm still trying to figure that. I'm still trying to navigate how do I do this, because at the end of the day, my son, as soon as he needs something, I got to go. And I still got to be there for all the things that he needs. He doesn't do camps. He can't. He cannot do camps. When we do field trips, one of us gotta go, or else we're gonna have some type of meltdown again. There's all these other little bits of things where it's I can't even wrap my head around trying to work or do anything else. I will also say really quickly, going back to breastfeeding, I actually really liked it. So I hated being pregnant. I assumed I was not going to nurse. Got bottles, got everything. Tried to give my child a bottle in the hospital, and he was like, get that out of my face. So I guess I have these boobs, I'll try them. And that experience, I nursed him past 2. I think he was almost 3 when we finally stopped. And it was my most favorite thing, because not only did I get a warm cuddle, because I did like him as a baby when he was just kind of a heavy weight and he wasn't
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
He's gangly now. He is a spider crab that I have to cuddle now, and it's not as fun as, holding a nice warm baby, so I love those moments. And it helped with the anxiety of making sure that my baby was fed, because I knew I would always have food for him. So there were some things about it, and I absolutely love nursing. I don't know why, but I was if I could nurse for the rest of my life, I would do it. I love
So no sensory issues at all?
Evidently not. That was my favorite sensory. I was I would do this forever, which seems weird. It does, because you should have seen me when I was pregnant. I was this is the worst. And most of my stuff, this is the worst. But that was one thing I loved. I will say though, I have autistic friends who are moms, and that was not their favorite thing. They hated that. But you know what they loved? Pregnancy.
Well, I'm happy to hear that though, because it means that there was something that you actually got joy from and happiness from. So that's a good thing to hear. Yeah. And there's always experiences, right? Oh, you know what? I can completely relate to what you said too, with regards to I absolutely loved holding the boys when they were babies, and holding them when they were sleeping or helping them go to sleep, or big hugs. It was great. There is something really, really great feeling about a nice warm hug. I'm always more of a deep pressure big hard guy than a light touch, soft kind of. It makes me feel icky, not good at all. So I can totally relate to that. It's always been a deep pressure kind of thing, and I think the kids from hugs they're so nice, they're so warm and yeah, I can totally relate to that.
Weight, like
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Like a blanket, but it's like a little ball, so it's Whoa, God, you had and the light touch. That's my son right now. He's very like, ugh.
Yeah,
like,
and I can relate to that.
I don't want to flinch and be like, because that's not nice. But that's my immediate reaction, is I'm like having to like mask it and be like, oh man, I'm so glad that you're here.
But yeah, the idea that people would look at that as like me doing something is like, it's an involuntary reaction, basically, like that kind of but I get it. It's tricky. And that's the thing you have to manage, how you feel about people as they change as an autistic person, and how you convey that, because it's not actually about them. It's about you, right? It's not like I love my autistic son less as he grows and becomes a tall, lanky, spider, like you say. But it's about how the experiences are different to you, and that's really hard. I don't know. The whole parenting thing and the capacity to do it well is really a big realization for me at the moment. I don't know the way back. I don't know how I get back to that. And what does that mean then? So then you start to think, what, am I supposed to let my partner get a real guy, a real man who can do the stuff? I mean, it's, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where I don't know where to from here. It's a tricky place to be when you're in this vortex of young kids.
Yeah. And I feel really bad because my husband, he's had to learn all of this. Like, he started dating me because I was cute and quirky. And then he finds out later that I had I have mental health issues, and I had learning to have all these things, and it's not in his family. Like, it's in mine. I turn around and look at my family, and we're just a bunch of undiagnosed fun things. And so it's not the same as his family. So he's kind of coming into this just fresh, and I have to give him so much credit, because I didn't expect him to be able to pick up on things as well. Like, he can tell if it's too loud in the space for me, and I'm trying to be nice. He's like, you want me to go get your headphones? He'll whisper, do you want your headphones? And he's the one who's able to pick up on our needs and try to be more helpful with that. My son, he won't eat certain foods because of the texture, the taste is a little off, right? And I was like that too as a kid, and I used to get in trouble for that, and I don't want to do that. But it is really hard when you come from, families where we didn't have as much, and so you had to eat all your food, and to now watch your child just sit there and it feels like a waste, and having to watch that, or just be frustrated because he's watching both his wife and his son being like, I'm not gonna eat that. And all these little things that I know it's so tough, and I am so grateful because he really does put in that work. He puts in that effort. He had Kai away from me all day this morning to give me space, because he knew that I had been ruminating ever since I knew that we were going to do this, because I was so nervous, and I didn't have enough planning, because I didn't have time to plan because I was busy with my son. So I didn't get to do all of the in-depth planning of learning your birthday and social security number that you probably don't have because you're Australian, but learn all the deep things about you. But he knew, and he did those things without asking. And he knows that I'm burnt out, and he's not sitting there being like, why aren't you doing the dishes? Because I'm laying on the bed like this and just listening to The Office for 3 weeks. So I am really grateful, but I know it's hard. And I think about that all the time. You sure you want to be with this? It's okay. I get it. This is awful. This must be really, really hard. And it's not fair. And I just feel bad a lot because I guess that's just how it is.
Well, yeah. Talking to you is helpful to me because obviously I'm not the only person. This is the I guess, the bad part of being an autistic person, right? We experience this all our life and it hasn't really changed. Even when people say the reverse to us, it hasn't really changed. And here we are questioning our worth to our own family. And that's just one of those things that what do you say to that? There's nothing you can say apart from I can completely relate to that. I mean, it would literally be a regular thing where I'd go like, seriously, surely it would make more sense if you got yourself like a real man, like a real person. And it's not a way to live life, is it? But it's an insight into how we view. People might go, well, that sounds really cold. What, you could just trade your wife like nothing? And like, no, not that. It's not how I'm coming at it, but it can look really cold, which just feeds into the issue too of how we are desperately trying to just survive in this world.
And that's what they love about it, and that we're great, and they give us all these compliments we hate, which makes it more uncomfortable because. Like, it's like, oh, God, like, this is even worse. Like, I shouldn't have said anything because I'm like, now I have to deal with this feeling. And it really is hard. That part, there's so much. Like, I didn't expect this. Yeah, and I don't hate my life at all, but I just wasn't prepared. And I like to be prepared for things.
Yeah, could completely understand that. All right. There's clearly lots of things I haven't been able to talk to you about, but is there anything specific that you wanted to mention or talk about before I let you go, just in case I haven't gotten to something? Because I don't want you to miss an opportunity to say stuff, but I feel like we still have lots to talk about. But is there anything else?
I think for kind of your American audience out there, understanding like the school system, how could I say this? I'm going to say all these words and you can figure out what you want to do, but basically what I learned in this whole process is, I put my son in private school because I was hoping that he would get kind of like a better situation in terms of like, again, he doesn't have a lot of needs. They're very small, but that smaller space, maybe I would get a little bit more for him. And what I learned is that there are a lot of private schools that don't want us in there. Let me rephrase that don't want us to identify as what we are, because they still want us in there, right? These private schools, they want us because we're brilliant and we can do things that, are outside of what they're used to. We can be highly talented and they want that, but they don't want to support us, right? They don't want to do the basic supports here. And I want more conversation around that because there are a lot of kids, myself included. I went to a private school here in Maui and I went through that whole process without having any supports. And I went to college without having any supports, and boy, could I have used some supports. And it would have been so helpful to be able to have the diagnosis only so that I can get the supports, because I needed them in order to get the supports, right? This is what we have to do here. And there's a whole group of kids, even at my son's age that I'm looking at, and I'm like, they could easily be some type of neurodivergence and they are getting no supports. It's one of those things where it's like, I want the conversation to be had, not just in kind of our basic communities, but also these other communities where it's like, there's that idea that you need to save face, that disability is a dirty word, when in fact they're already in there and you're just not supporting them. And that's a pretty terrible thing to do to a bunch of kids. I think that is just one thing that I would want to be said so that we can kind of have that conversation a little more.
Yeah, and it's a great conversation to have. And it's a conversation that, I bring up a lot, having a kid in the school system. I don't think it's any different in other countries, to be honest with you. And I think it all comes down to it's too hard. But I think the big issue too is even if you can have a diagnosis and you can get supports, a lot of the supports, they're just devised by neurotypical people in just a ticker box way that just have no relevance to actually helping. So, and I think great examples of that for me, I mean, I pretty much finished a law degree and then dropped out. So I had maybe a semester of a handful of units and just dropped out. I just couldn't do it anymore. I would probably kill myself if I stayed. So, the best they could give me was, we'll give you 10 minutes extra on an exam. It's like 10 minutes extra on an exam won't help me if you haven't given me anything to help me learn the content during the 12-week semester. Like, you see what I'm saying? I need help digesting the content, not an extra 10 minutes on an exam. Sure, that might be helpful, but they look at things like, oh, we'll give you you can have an extra 2 weeks to complete your in-semester assignments. It's like, again, I can't do the assignment if I haven't absorbed the information, but all you're helping him with is assessment-based stuff. Why help me with assessment-based stuff if your job is to teach me, right? So even the ones where you can get help, the help isn't right. So this is such a broad conversation. It's worldwide, and it's a really critical conversation. One thing to get supports, great. It's another thing to get supports that are helpful.
And I do feel like, as we start getting this kind of lost generation diagnosed, I do feel like there's also an opportunity, but I definitely don't want to push that on our community because we're so tired. But there is that opportunity to be advocates in the sense where it's like, I'm going to tell you, let me come into this room for a second. And I'll tell you all the things that make it hard for us to be in this room. Okay. Let us in so that we can here's the thing. A lot of the things that help us helps everybody else. You know what I'm saying? It's good for all of us. So, and this is what we're so good at when everyone's so happy about like all these, things that we can do. Well, it's because we're sensitive to all these little things and we can tell how it affects us. It affects other people too. So why don't we just fix these things? And a lot of times it's not that hard. Like having less things on your wall, that's an easy fix. There are some easy fixes that can be done that are cost effective. But you're right, those systems are not set up for us because they weren't set up by us.
And that's the key. The key is actually listening to us. A lot of times they just, the workplaces and the schools just don't want to listen to us. They just want to tell us what they can give us. So, yeah, I totally agree. And there's nothing happening at the moment, unfortunately. I mean, I constantly talk about this through making content and things, but in the end, it comes down to, systems being put in place to actually help people. And you're absolutely right. It's one of those things where it's a work in progress, but hopefully we can start making some progress. And it's certainly hearing your story and your experiences has been so beneficial to that and so helpful to that. And I am super, super grateful. It's been such a fun chat. I've learned so much about you and your experiences. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being so open.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I can talk about myself quite a bit. It's one of my skills I have. So it was fun. I can talk about what I know. And I really am grateful to have this platform and you sharing it with me. And hopefully we're helping some more people out there.
Thanks again, Keisa. I really did enjoy that chat. In fact, I bloody loved it. Now, if you want more real life stories from everyday autistic people just like you and me, check out my playlist, Collaborations.